To be clear, the desire, even the need to form close connections with one's own age group is natural and healthy. Such friendships can be among the richest bonds forged in a lifetime, but from the perspective of emotional development, peer orientation, the displacement of adults as the primary source and locus of attachment for the child in favor of her own age cohort is disastrous. The proverbial blind can do a better job of leading the blind than immature creatures can successfully guide one another to psychological maturity. In cultures with their priorities in order, young friendships blossom in a community setting overseen by nurturing adults. In our society, peer interactions occur not in the context of protective adult relationships but away from them. When children spend much of their waking time away from caring adults, their brains are compelled to choose between competing attachments, the natural call for parental connection, or the siren song of the peer world. If parents lose the contest, children must by default look to one another, which means that they too lose. All this is exacerbated by the blandishments of a pop culture that holds up immature adolescent celebrities as idols to be followed, a telling word, on social media by multiple millions of children and teens. In a previous age, these young people would have seen mature adult figures as the ones to emulate. The noblest of peers are hard pressed to supply the abiding connection that developmental safety demands. Among other shortcomings, children cannot count on each other to remain internally consistent. Many of us can recall an unhappy first day of school when we were shocked to realize that our erstwhile friends had morphed over the summer into something far less friendly. Nor can they offer one another the unconditional positive regard that nourishes healthy growth, a quality even well meaning adults often find challenging to provide. As a rule, immature peers are constitutionally incapable of accepting each other as is or holding space for the vulnerable experience of emotion, let alone its open expression, or relieving one another's stressed states, or celebrating or even tolerating temperamental differences. Left to its own callow devices, the peer group can offer only acceptance that is highly conditional and thus insecure, often demanding self suppression and conformity in place of true individuality. In more dire cases, peer orientation exposes children to the threat of rejection, ostracization, and bullying. According to a 2001 article by Natalie Angier in the New York Times, the news bristles with reports that bullies abound. We read frequent reports about bullying or of sexual assaults being shared on social media by adolescents as if they were amusing bits of life, even though the pain caused has also led to suicides and self harming. There are indications that children today are losing their tender feelings, Gordon Neufeld said in his penetrating European Parliament address. Many children have lost their sadness and disappointment, their feelings of alarm, their feelings of shame and embarrassment. Interestingly enough, research reveals when children lose their blush, they also lose their empathy. It turns out that caring too is a vulnerable feeling as it sets up for disappointment. We know that the most wounding of all experiences is facing separation. Unfortunately, today's children are subject to more parental separation and more peer interaction than ever before. The result, he concludes, is a significant loss of feeling as a young brain's defensive apparatus becomes stuck in an effort to defend against the sense of vulnerability that is too overwhelming. Again, we see the child's emotional apparatus being weakened, their felt sense of being human impoverished.